So episode 2 has arrived. And by now we are all realising this is not the Fury we know from the movies, is it? And we also know the Dismal Miners are up to all of their usual tricks, including some of the worst dialogue you're ever going to hear come through the speakers of your TV, including nuggets like this. Fury telling someone in this episode that even when I'm out, I'm in. Oh, join me after the scroll. It's not going to take me long to give you my criticisms because I think you all know what's coming. And in a way, the episode is so dull, the series is so dull so far. Bearing in mind we're a third of the way through now, 6 episodes only. And again, not a lot's happened. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go into exactly why it is that this is failed before it's stumbling already. And it doesn't help when you've got a company that just gets its characters wrong. So join me after the scroll. We're going to have a talk about it. Bonjour. So here we go. So let me first start off by saying that this so far has been the lowest rated MCU show. I mean, they just keep getting lower and lower and lower. Apparently, it's the lowest rated one on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't give two monkeys actually what Rotten Tomatoes talk about. I just think they're there, and it's in a way they're all it's a bit meaningless. I think, and also the little nugget that popped up is that they didn't make the showrunners of the show, or the director of the show, or the writer of the show, one of those, basically told them not to read the source material. And I've got a bunch of stuff here, which I'm going to go into a little bit later, because what I want to do is get the critique of this episode out of the way, and then get into more of the fundamentals about why this doesn't work. And we're going to start with, obviously, this isn't. We have got a tired, grizzled old Fury, grey, messed up, big bushy beard, looks like a homeless person. Now, this is in and of itself, that's okay as a story trope. And we see him in the final episode, he's back, yay. But in the meanwhile, what you're left with, I mean, this was Disney's Black James Bond. You think about the MCU and the character up to Endgame, by the way, I'm talking about now, when they were good. He was the Black James Bond. They had everything they wanted, Disney. They had everything they could possibly want. And even now, I know the TV shows are useless, but they've got everything they've asked for. They've asked for diversity. They've asked for inclusion. They've asked for intersexual feminism and gender identity politics and etc, 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 etc. They've got the whole lot in every single one of their shows now, and they are all failing because they're more worried about all of that. They still are, even in this one. One of the worst scenes I have seen I've watched in a Dismal Minor show was in this second episode. Absolutely atrociously conceived and executed. And I'm talking about the train scene. So you've got Telos and Fury in a train. Fury just harps up about when he was a kid getting a train from Alabama to Chicago with his mum, eating fried chicken. And I was just going to do an impression then, but I will not, because I don't want it to be insulting. It's already insulting to my intelligence and anyone else's intelligence. We get the metaphor of the Skrulls having to hide amongst the human race. We get it. We get it. But we're supposed to be treated like adults, aren't we? What was this scene for? The 9-year-olds in the audience that don't get it. Oh yeah, it's a bit like the Skrulls being aliens and the humans treating them badly. Oh yeah, that's a bit like racism, isn't it, Mummy? Yeah, it is, Tarquin. But you should be, even at 9 years old, you should be able to get the metaphor, and this story should be moving along at pace. It's only got 6 episodes, but we have the walking and talking. And all right, this is political espionage. We're supposed to be in that world, but they turned their Black James Bond into a hobo. And you've got Olivia Colman. I mean, I don't know if this is a Skrull in this episode or not. It probably, the way she's acting, if she isn't a Skrull, that scene doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But she can act the pants off anyone. So can Samuel Jackson. But what they've got given in this train scene where he's arguing with Talos, and Talos is accusing him of abandoning the Skrulls and their cause by going up to his space station. And Fury's going to Talos, well, you had the means of getting in touch with me, but you didn't, because you didn't want me to know. And the line of dialogue is so bad, and Fury is leaning forward, and they're having this. This is how hormonal teenagers would be arguing. And the scene ends with Fury having a hissy fit and telling Talos to get off the train. They're somewhere in Russia, I believe. I don't know where they are at this point, because then in the next scene he's in London. And no one's helping him out, so I don't know. I just don't know what's happening. Those scenes work. The globe-trotting works when you've got S.H.I.E.L.D. at your disposal. Yes, you can be in Beijing next week. You can be in Beijing next scene. You can be in Shanghai. Then you can be in London. Then you can be in New York. Then you can be back in Rome. Yeah, Mission Impossible is going to do that this summer. They're going to be all over the place. But that's what it's all about. And just keeping in the theme of the immaturity of the writing and of the directing and of the production and of the production design, set everything. It is literally how children. I think I might have said this for the first episode, so forgive me just for repeating because it's going to lead on to something else. This is literally how children write adult characters when they've not really had grown-ups around. You haven't lived long enough. I'm not saying young writers can't write creative things. I'm not saying that. But don't forget, this is relying a lot. If you want to go for the adult audience and go for this espionage kind of, I keep getting that word wrong, don't I? I'll put my teeth in a minute. If you're going to go for this espionage kind of paranoia, Cold War type thriller, you are going to be requiring some on-point dialogue. I can tell you that for nothing. And that can keep the drama going with good characters, and they've got good actors to do it, but it fails massively. This second episode, we get onto the geopolitical stage. So now you've got the Prime Minister of England, you've got the President of the US, I think you've got the Indian Prime Minister or President, whatever it is, and you've got some big figures. Spoiler alert, I will put it on the thumbnail as well. They're Skrulls. But you've got 4 or 5 of them in that, and this literally isn't how the world works. They've done such a simplistic job of it, of saying that within this short period of time, within the period of 25 years, the Skrulls have infiltrated the world, and there's a million of them here apparently, and this is how useless Fury is now. He don't even know. He's never found out. He's never kept his eye on them. Do you remember the Fury, the Nick Fury from the films, who was on the ball? They couldn't kill him. And this one, once a snap occurred, and he faded and he come back. He's all messed up and he hasn't got a clue. But surely he would have been keeping an eye on the Skrulls from day one. Surely he would have got Reed Richards to have created a machine that detects them. He would have done something. But no, Talos is saying, oh, there's a million of us here. Like, and Fury is furious. So we get a lot of walking and a lot of inane talking. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to jump right to the end of this episode. He kind of has a showdown with Rhodey, and Rhodey's kind of sacking him, or this. What is it in Mission Impossible when they get disavowed? Like Rhodey's kind of disavowing Nick Fury as if he's got, even Fury is saying, well, you haven't got the authority. He's going, well, I've just decided to do it. Again, this immature kind of quick fixing that Dismal Minus does. So, pardon the pun that's going to come out of my mouth, infuriating. It really is. But he escapes. There's literally, Rhodey has got one man with him. And Fury says, no, I'm not going to get in the car and go back to America. And he dislocates a bloke's arm who comes up, like a big CIA, Secret Service guy, whoever he is. He just dislocates his arm and places him over there, just 2 steps to the left, just places him over there, gets his gun, and walks out. That's it. That's how he escapes the clutches of the US Secret Service, SHIELD, whatever it is. I don't know what the hell it is anymore. What's going on and who Rhodey represents, I don't know. He's obviously representing the government at some kind of level. But this is literally how he is allowed to walk out. He doesn't even dislocate the arm and get the gun and run and push Rhodey out of the way. Or Rhodey just sits there. It's watching him do it and going, why'd you do that? It's absolutely shocking. And they've aimed so high with a more kind of adult orientated storytelling, or whatever you want. I don't know. And I'm going to get onto the fundamental problem of it, and I'll tell you why. So I'm going to start with, okay, I will admit that if they're doing an end of life, end of career storyline, which Affleck portrayed quite well as Batman, like that kind of grizzled, worn down Batman. He kind of says in one of the films like he's failed, or I might be mixing up the comics now, where he's failed to halt crime in Gotham, and he is that mid. And you've got Alfred talking. It was in I think it was in Dawn of Justice, and Alfred is saying, it makes cruel men, it makes men cruel, things like that, right? Where he's kind of at the end of the, but nevertheless, he's still got his wits about him. He's still got his utility belt and all his gadgets, and he's still got the fire. But this is an end of the line kind of Batman. The other one that did it really well was Logan, where you've got the end of the line Wolverine with the end of the line Professor X, but they've still got all their powers. Or they might be on the wane, or like Professor X is going mental. But Wolverine, from the very, very opening scene, he's rock bottom, but he's still a superhero. Might be a failed one, might be a cynical one, but and might be considered a failure. And that is the film. That is the journey of it. This stuttering beginning, if Dismal Minus are going for this arc for Fury, the fundamental mistake they've made is the fact that all you have now got is an ordinary bloke. Because your James Bond type character has not got no special ability to get back. Shield's gone. He's on his own. So the way it's going is he can only really make friends with Talos again. and you've got one lot of Skrulls against another lot of Skrulls, with Fury kind of on the side of the good Skrulls. That's my little prediction for the next 4 episodes, if I can make it through. And this is how long I've followed. Just bear with me for just 5 minutes, because this is how Fury used to be. Like, that's where he started. And the Howling Commandos, this is from like the mid-late 60s. He started off in World War II in charge of the Howling Commandos. Now we see those, so that's Fury. I'm not bothered that they turned him black in the films, but we're going to get to that, because he was black in the comics before the films, all right? So then they turned him. So from that, in the late 60s, now look, Shield, here we go. This is where we... Beautiful artwork by Nick Steranko from this issue onwards. And Nick, he got his own comic. Look, yeah, Agent of Shield and Nick Steranko's artwork. You know, if you are loving the comic side of it, and even right up to, I think this is late 80s, early 90s. This weren't a particularly good run. This was a bit stinky. But look. Fury. He hasn't got no special powers. He's not a superhero, but he's got something about him. He's got his organisation, and he's got his brain. Now look at the name of the comic that they've told the producers not to read. Now I know, this was quite a superhero, like multi-title spanning thing. You know, you can see on here the Hulk and anyway, I won't go into it. Look this was the first issue of the series. Look how good that is. Look, Captain America as a Skrull, so you know where the story's going. You know where the story's going. It was absolutely superb. Just one more cover, because I love the artwork on these bad boys. This is the Secret Invasion. Not that I was expecting, but look, this is how you can do it. This is how you can do it. Stories about superheroes, Skrulls. They was in the Fantastic Four back in the early 60s. Stan Lee come up with them. Shape-shifting, brilliant. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I think the pitch for this series, Invasion of the Body Snatchers meets Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. End of. In the middle of it, you've got an ex-James Bond down on his luck. Because you can see the character was that, just from these comic covers, you can see that's how the character was. And just Skrull Kill Crew, this was just a funny little... but Mark Miller, however you pronounce his name, Mark Miller, and who went on to do the Ultimates, which is what they based a lot of the MCU on. He had a lot of fun with this, and Grant Morrison. So 2 British writers on this, and Steve Yeowell, who did Zenith for 2000 AD, the artist. Got 3 Brits or 3 UK residents, Brits / Scottish. Unless Steve Yeowell is Scottish, and in which case there's just 3 jocks. Anyway, besides the point. And look, Mark Miller, this is where... Right, now I know Fury isn't on the cover, right? And I won't be doing a deep dive. I did think about doing a deep dive and showing it, but I won't. But basically, I don't know if there is an unused cover. But this is basically where, and I weren't bothered, when the Ultimates come out, absolutely superb how they reinvented for a modern age. How Mark Miller, sorry I keep going mad with his name, but look, that was an unused cover. I think it was because obviously Samuel Jackson wasn't on board at this point. But inside the comic, it was that, and I weren't bothered, because you can't have him. You can't. In the 60s, it was okay for him to go from war veteran to James Bond in the 60s. So from the 40s, you know, that could work. But in the 21st century, it can't, can it? You can't have a World War II. We've got Cap. And if you remember in the first Captain America film, the first Avenger, they had the Howling Commandos, but without Fury. So someone along the way was planning for Fury to be like he was in the Ultimates, which is a black guy, looks like Samuel Jackson. And that could be a whole other video if I start researching it, because I know there are some stories there, and I think they're included in that massive tome about the connection with the Samuel Jackson thing and all that. But this isn't why we're here. Well, Samuel Jackson is why we're here. But talking about Fury as a character, and it is that thing. It's something exceptional. Now I know in this series, it's the Skrulls, but the metaphor is used up at the beginning. And if you can, and you've got to be really on point with your storytelling when you've got shapeshifters, you can make it. You can make it really intriguing, and I'm finding myself thinking of Mission Impossible again, and it's weird that's how in my head my perception of Fury as a character is living in that world, and that's how the character was created. Whether he's white or black is irrelevant. That's how they perceived him, as a James Bondian type of character after World War II, and in the 60s it was all the rage. Okay, fine. But where we find ourselves now with Dismal Minus and their approach to these things is there's nothing left of him. This hollow shell of a man, it makes for boring TV. And this is what you just keep coming back to. Boring TV, boring dialogue, no momentum. And nevertheless, still made for, somehow they're still making it for children. Everything has got to be explained. Every metaphor has got to be drawn on the blackboard for the children's viewing pleasure. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the fact in Mission Impossible, the tension that some of the scenes had when they do the shape, they do the faces. When old what's Tom Cruise's name in the Mission Impossible films? I really should write this stuff down, shouldn't I? Forgive me, you know what my brain's like. I can remember the year that like Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos come out, but I can't remember that. Anyway, doesn't matter, because those face machines and that they use, and there's one scene where they're just using it as within the story, and the glory of that is that in and of itself, that conceit that they don't overuse it, but that conceit, they make it work. The fact that you can put on a latex face and it bonds to your face so that as you move, your new face, I mean, it's an utterly ridiculous thing when you think about it. And when you see him putting it on, I've got his name on the tip of my tongue. When you see, and it isn't just him either, there's a couple of other characters, I think, or is it just him? Anyway, when you've got to make that work. You've got to make the audience suspend their disbelief for that amount of time. And it's the same with the Skrulls. It's a complex thing to extract the tension out of the scenes, because if it's overused, which it already is, because we've got the Prime Minister of England, I think it's Japan or China, no, it must be Japan, the US President, I think it's India, you got about half a dozen world leaders around a table that have managed to finagle their way to the top, and they're all they're all Skrulls. Just doesn't work. But what about that? What about Colonel Fury when they try to kill him in Winter Soldier? Now, I'm going to end this video. I know I've ranted, but I've had to, because there's nothing to talk about with this series other than trying to explain why it's so bad. Just take the template out of Winter Soldier. The film, by the way, not the thing that Dismal did. Look at Fury when he comes back from the dead. They think they've got rid of him, and the helicopter's landing. And you've already got Black Widow in the room with it's all kicking off, and it's still my favourite film out of all the MCU stuff, because it perfectly pitches Look at him in that scene, old Fury, when he's looking at the old Bill and he's going, "Oh, do you want to see my lease?" You know, he's in his car. And you want to see my lease? Got a problem? As if no one in the world knows who he is. Which briefly harks back to the first episode where he just decides to walk around in Moscow. Now, I suppose the writers may have been thinking they're clever because he wanted to get picked up by Olivia Colman's character. It just doesn't work, does it? That you're willing to risk being recognised because the world knows who you are because you saved it a couple of times. Doesn't work, does it? But where is that Fury? Because that scene from where he says, "Do you want to look at my lease?" and the teams of Hydra operatives, and he's talking to the car and he's saying, "No, wait, not even the car can tell Fury what to do." And he's got his little gadget at the end and he manages to get away from Winter Soldier. And they are, for me, some of the best scenes in the genre, for me. But it's a cross-pollination. There's no superheroics in it. But they kind of are, because a normal human wouldn't have, you know. And he hurts his arm. The drama's there. He hurts his arm. The car's being destroyed. You're waiting. The clock's ticking because you're waiting for the bullets to blow out. That is how you create tension and drama. Or that's how adults do it. Not the children that they've given the crayons to at Dismal Minus on how to me write story with Fury in it. Me write that Fury can't do a lot. Oh, well, that makes for exciting stuff, doesn't it? That really makes for exciting stuff. If you want to do a boring, dreary drama, there's plenty of other outlets, isn't it? I don't get why Marvel want to do it. Why do they want to keep doing boring stuff? They kind of emancipated Loki and turned him into whatever they did to him. And they're doing the same thing with Fury. So what's the point? Where's the super? Well, where's the hero? Well, he might be in the last episode. Anyway, do you know what? That was the Fury, really, that you kind of needed to see him on his knees for the first episode. Maybe this one, but coming back. And the cliffhanger for the second episode, out of 6, I'm basing this on. You are at this is Act 1. If you're going to do a 3-act play, you've got 6 episodes. We're at the end of Act 1. Now Act 2's got to really trot on. Now it's got to be the war. Now he's got to be on the side of the good Skrulls. But this episode, he's just told the good Skrull to get out of the train. After he's told his story about eating fried chicken and cornbread. Fascinating story about his childhood. Yay. Anyway, I don't think, there's nothing exceptional. And if there's going to be nothing exceptional in it, then what have you got? Where's the tension? Where's the drama, characterisation? What is it? I mean, Olivia Colman could do all that, but she's got 2 minutes in the first episode and 2 minutes in this one. And again, the dialogue, just one other line I've just thought of, that he goes to see Maria Hill's mum. Somehow he's in London, and he's the body's come back from Moscow. He's got to London, and somehow Fury's there. He was on a train a minute ago, but now he's in London. And his mum comes over, and she asks Fury, "How did it happen?" Like, obviously her daughter. How did her daughter die? She goes, "How did it happen?" And Fury says, "It happened quickly." I wish these episodes would happen quickly. Do you know what? They're 50 odd minutes long. I wish they'd happen quickly. But on that note, I've rambled enough about why this is completely wrong. Like a lot of the other Dismal Miners stuff, to be fair. But if you're up for it, I'll see you next week. And just quickly before I go, a big thank you again to everyone who is liking and commenting. I love you commenters. And I particularly love you nutty subscribers. Love you all. And thank you for watching if you've put up with me this far. And I will bid you until next time. Adios.